everyone to Nellen in New York. I'm your host, Nellen Hunt. Of course, We News is bringing you this. And one of the wonderful things about this job is we get to talk to people from all walks of life with fascinating stories. Today, we're going to hear the story of Anjanie Ali, originally from Chin Chin Road, Canupia. What would you give to be there right now, Anjanie?
Yeah. Anything to be there right now.
You know, in the warmth and a carib or a stag in your hand. We're not advertising for anybody in particular. And, and just enjoying good old fashioned down home company.
Yes, definitely. The whole vibes there, totally different.
How long have you been in the US, Anjani?
Well, we left Trinidad in Christmas Eve day of 1989 and
Wow.
went to New York. So I lived in New York for about 14 years, and I've been here in Central Florida for about 16 years now. So yeah,
Wow. So
yeah.
that's when you were what, 2 months old?
No, no, I was
you,
actually
you just
11.
was you
I
just
was
was some
11 years
years
old.
there. It's the cold that kind of preserves you.
Yeah.
It doesn't let anything die. What made you move initially to New York and then from New York to Miami to Florida?
Right. Well, leaving Trinidad, I didn't have a choice. I had to follow wherever my parents go, right? So
Yeah.
so they decided to leave Trinidad and, just in pursuit of a better life and opportunities and, things like that. And went to New York. So we followed it's me and I have two older brothers.
Mm.
So we all came at that time and lived there and so forth. But then I grew up, got married, kids, all that stuff, and decided that we actually came on vacation in 2001 for the first time ever to Florida. And, to
Wow.
do the whole Disney thing and,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. With the kids and stuff like that. So from the time we came, we fell in love with the place. Um, from 2001 to now, total difference like in development and stuff like that. But long story short, we fell in love with the place and decided, what, growing the kids up would be in our opinion, not to say anything bad about New York or whatever, but it just felt more at home for me and with the kids and everything. So we decided to make the move, and we made the move in 2005.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're
So
enjoying the heat, the alligators. Um,
the
I
wild,
always the what?
the wild meat.
The what? Only a Trini would see that side of it. Because I always say my greatest fear in Florida is I might leave a friend's house and go jogging, and the next thing you know, alligator drag me into something somewhere because you hear these kind of stories, Anjani, and I have to tell you, I think that could be me.
Yeah.
You might just find one sneakers with
Right.
maybe a foot in it, but that
Right.
would be me. That
Yeah.
that the life I have, that would be my story.
Yeah.
Went jogging and we just never see him again.
See. Yeah. It's nice. I mean, I love it here. I love it.
Yeah,
The only place I would move from here is to go back home, which
yeah,
home for me is Trinidad. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
But it's such an interesting thing how West Indians and slash Trinidadians um they make their way to North America, and I think we are lucky because we just close our eyes and go. You know what
yeah.
I mean? When
Yes.
you when you meet people here, they tell you their plan. Well, in
Yeah.
5 years, we're going to move to Paris, and then two years after that, we're going to buy a
Yes.
country home outside and raise a farm. Trinidad, this is go, girl, pack your bags, we go in.
Yeah.
And that is it.
It's so true. That is so, so true. Very like spontaneous and just
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah.
It's
That
it's a
is so true.
blessing to have that sort of freedom of thought to
Yeah.
just go. And you came to the US and you didn't just come to the US. You came to the US and you opened a business. Several.
Right.
How did you go from arriving here and figuring out which train takes you into the
Oh my
city
God.
and out of the city
Yeah.
to deciding time to
Mhm.
open a business?
Yeah. Well, honestly, it wasn't always an easy road. We had, very rough patches, and as a lot of people would have in the beginning and things like that, and still have rough patches right now.
Hmm.
But just arriving here, I remember I cried for months. I cried. I wanted to go back home. I want to go home. And we came Christmas Eve, so it was freezing.
Yeah.
Freezing, you watch TV when you live in Trinidad, you're watching TV and you're like, oh, the snow looking so
No.
pretty. And
And
you know,
you reach and
but
you go, I have to
yeah,
walk through that.
yeah. And needless to say, like how many times I fell, and it's crazy. But just the whole New York living, I mean, I would never say anything bad about it or anything like that. We learned a lot, and you
Yeah.
worked a lot. And my very, very, very first job was working in a bagel shop in Queens, I remember.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like 15 years old. Yeah. And that was my first job. And, did a lot of other remedial jobs and things like that. And when I had two boys first, and then I had my daughter a few years after. And when for the boys, I always worked corporate, like in Manhattan, different firms and things like that. So I would be, the regular 8 to 5 job, whatever, whatever.
Hmm.
And I could even take them to school or pick them. I didn't have that luxury. I always had, either my mother was helping me or a neighbor, things like that. When my daughter came along, I said, you know what, I need to have a little more time. And living there in Queens, on 120th Street is where I had my house. And I said, one of my other friends, she said, you know what, I'm going to open up a home daycare. And I'm like, home daycare? What is that? Long story short, we got into all of it, me and her name is Anita. And we are friends until this day. And we got into it, and it was difficult, starting up and trying to figure out, oh my God, I'm have to deal with all these people's kids. So, but dealing with your own, you have more freedom, right? So,
Yes. And
so
listen, just barely, because here when you give them a
yeah,
look and they go, you can't look at me that way.
yeah. Exactly. So true. Yeah. So we decided to do that. And so I opened it up in my house. It was a family home daycare, started that there. And I actually started that in 2001, the same year my daughter was born. And
Mm.
then did it for the 4 years in New York. And then when I moved here in 2005, I moved in January, and I did the purchase. I made the purchase by June. So, and I bought an actual facility. And
Wow.
so I had her with me, and then grew into a bigger building, and then bought another one, things like that. And did that for all these years. And I actually stopped about 2 years ago is when I said, okay, that's it, enough.
We're gonna take a quick break, and Johnny. When we come back, we'll continue talking about that before we touch on what I find is like the really exciting thing you're involved with now. Don't go anywhere, everyone. You're watching Nellen in New York. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Cause you are my everything, and I'm gonna do anything. Go put that on everything, oh, for you. If I give you all my love, and would you treasure? Would you cherish it and never let me go? Cause you're not gonna find someone to love you better, oh. If I want him there for certain, I want you. Make I go love you, Jaja. Make I go love you, tender. Make I go love you, Jaja. Make I go love you, tender, oh, tender, oh. My love, the eternally. I love you for eternity. Oh, my love, the eternally. I love you for eternity. I'll swim the deepest ocean to show my devotion. generation, yeah.
Welcome back. You're watching Nellen in New York. I'm speaking with business magnate and tycoon Anjanie Ali, and you were talking about your move to Florida, and you started your daycare business there, and then grew from smaller building to larger building to several buildings. Were you ever afraid anywhere along the line? Did you ever say, "What am I doing?"
There were moments. There were
Mhm.
moments when I was like, what? Oh my God, I'm already working like 14 hours a day. Do I want to continue doing this? What am I really doing? But the whole experience itself was, um, it was for the kids and for the community and things like that. The community that I had it in, really was, in need of it and so forth. And it benefited the working parents and things like that. So it really, I enjoyed it at that point in time and that for that phase of my life. Yeah.
And then 2 years ago, you said,
That's it.
"That's it."
That's it.
And once
That
again, the next step, were I hear people like you and your stories, and I find them fascinating because I understand that this is how the world operates. People own companies, people own businesses, but I always wonder, like, how do you know? How do you know that that step you're taking is sure, safe, secure, and going to work out? And I suppose you don't, but I'm still
you
always
don't.
curious, how, when do you say, you know what, I'm a little bit afraid, but we're doing this?
Right. And, and as you said it, I mean, and that's true. We're not always 100% sure or know it's going to work or whatever. But just like a lot of things in life, it's like a risk, a chance, like if it's something that you like or something, your hobby or whatever it is, or you feel like, what, it's something I want to do, you just go for it and be positive about it. And it will work out. And of course, it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be humps and bumps and days where you come home crying, like, what?
And Johnny,
And
I don't know if you're selling me on this, because all I hear is how much I will be crying. But no, I understand what you say. It really is a wealth of experience. Decide to go off and do something on your own and to not be sure. Just to pick up and move across the world is what we do when we
yeah,
go anywhere.
yeah,
And then to be in a place where it's not your space, it's not your homebred space, and to take these chances. Kudos to you. Kudos to you. It's a wonderful testament to how really proactive and innovative and inventive we can be. Coming from an island culture where everything is within reach, to then
right.
come to 52 states, 370 something million people, and decide, I'm going to make a mark for myself here.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true, but you know, there's so much opportunities here and so much space for improvement and just everything else. So, it just take it one step at a time and it works out.
2 years ago, you just said, we're done. Why?
Well, at that point in time, my kids they are grown, they're all adults. And to be honest, my patience was running low. So, and with that type of business, you have to deal with the state and local stuff, federal stuff, just a whole bunch of stuff mixed up together. And I'm not going to sit here and say it was all happy go lucky kind of thing. There is a lot of stress that goes along, with that type of
Mm-hmm.
job, and that owning that type. And at the end of the day, no matter how many employees you have and whatever you have, anything goes wrong, they're coming to you,
Yeah.
they're coming to you. And, with society, the way it has changed, people have changed, different things. And every time something would go wrong in one section or somebody makes a mistake, then they change the whole industry,
Yeah.
the state, and the regulations, and they add like 10 new things that you have to do and this and that. And it just became to the point where the stress level of dealing with it was not worth it for me.
It's a
You know,
heavily regulated industry.
yes,
There's in New York, in Trinidad, they like to say every other corner there's a bar.
yeah, yeah,
In New York, every other corner, especially in the city, is either a hair salon or a dog daycare business.
right.
And the salon industry is more regulated than the medical industry in New York. I have heard.
Really,
I've heard that there
really,
are articles telling you, and having been involved in it,
mhm,
it's amazing the things, like you said, there's a rule for everything. And if
yes,
somebody, if one of the children in your daycare was to fall this way, it's because
yeah,
now all daycares must have steps reinforced on the left because
yes,
it sounds simple, but
yes,
it's things like that. Like you said, every time something happens, then there's a new law that says, okay, now
yes,
this is how you have to operate, and this is how it changes.
exactly. Yep, yep.
You went from corralling children and their parents to corralling Nisuka artists.
Yeah.
I thought you said that you were ready to get rid of a lot of the stress because
Well,
dealing with
yeah,
creative people,
yeah.
you know. How did you make that switch?
Well, even while I had the facility, I started doing events because I started doing events back in 2010. So, and I still was operating the daycare businesses and stuff like that. But I enjoyed it, even though, yeah, dealing with people sometimes could be difficult, but it's something that I like, it's something that I enjoy, something that I love.
Mhm.
So it really did not stress me, or it doesn't stress me to that level, because I love it. Yeah.
What are some of the events that you are involved with? But before we jump into that, we have to take a break because these shows don't pay for themselves. So
Yeah.
somebody have to hand us a check. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We're talking with Anjanie Ali. You're watching Nellen in New York.
Oye, come. This ain't no carnival. I go bring my friends and you could bring your friends and we friends will all line together. Just decide who hosts we lining in. This place a real vibe. Right here in the back. Yeah, jam. We go tiggy licky. It's real vibes and we beat you lion right here in the back. Yeah, jam. Hey, go straight in the kitchen. Grab a pot and then start beating your hair. Hey, backyard must have an announcer, someone who will keep the order to give you house rules and safety tips. So when you wind down low, you wouldn't break your hip. We don't need no big promoter. The neighbors go be responsible. So when you see the police, tell them come get something to eat right now in the back. Yeah, jam. We go tingy licky.
Welcome back. You're watching Nellen in New York. We're speaking with Anjanie Ali, a daughter of the soil who has made her way here in the US, not in one but two states. She has touched on so many things as you've been watching before in the story of her life. And now she is promoting Chutney Soca in Florida. Anjanie, what was your first event like?
Okay, so that actually that first event I decided to do was in the month of June, and it was on Father's Day weekend.
Mhm.
So I decided, you know what, let's just do it, and I'm in Central Florida, so like the Orlando area kind of. So I said, okay, Orlando will be our home base kind of thing. I'm not saying that we wouldn't do events anywhere else, but that would be home base because that's where we reside. And my first very very first event was with Delina and Raymond
Mm.
Martin.
Ooh,
Yeah.
go big or go home. You didn't have a little local contest in a roti shop somewhere. You just said, no, give me a stadium.
So yeah, so we wanted to start with, you know what I mean, with some sense of making a mark, you know.
Mhm.
And so we decided to go with them. Um, and when we started in when we did that first event in June, it was held at the Mailer Room. The venue no longer exists, but it was at times it was like because you know it's first time doing the event and it's trying to get everything organized. Like I remember I was writing and I had a clipboard and I had loose leaf sheets of paper and I was making checklists. Okay, the sound company, the stage, the this, the that, you know, and just writing it down and checking off as you're going. And of course, typical me, I wouldn't say, I don't know about if I should say typical Trinidadian, some might get upset if I say that, but typical I must forget something, you know. So or
Oh, what
either
did you forget?
yeah, so either or if I do forget, or either something is last minute, like okay, doors are supposed to open at 8 o'clock, and at 8 o'clock I realize something is missing, you know. So so doing that first event, I went through a lot of it was a big learning process, you know, but
Uh,
I had so much support. It was
yeah.
unbelievable. A lot of support from the entire community here, our sound company, my family, my husband, the kids, everybody. We had the turnout was massive. We had a huge turnout because there wasn't anything like that for many, many years. And with
Uh,
that particular those artists and stuff for a very long time in this area. And it was really, really good. Whatever mistakes or whatever things that I forgot, nobody realized it. Only the people who was in
they,
that inner circle would
they
know.
never do. They go,
Yeah,
girl, that thing was perfect. And you walk
yeah,
away going, perf, what? When I see a therapist after this and you're talking about perfect. Yeah, it's amazing how people don't know because I mean it's not what they're exposed to, but you know,
right.
congratulations. It's a big step to decide to do something like that and to just close your eyes and hope for the best.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, dealing with the artists and them, that Delina and just Karma and the Beamers, just our local people there in Trinidad or Guyana, here, right here in Florida, New York, wherever, Suriname, things like that. I mean, I've used artists from all these different places, and honestly, they've all been great to work with. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, nothing is perfect. You know, nothing is perfect. Nobody is perfect. But in the overall, I mean, it's been fun, a lot of fun.
How many events have you thrown to this day?
Oh my God, I should have counted that before. I honestly, I don't have an exact number.
Yeah.
I do have some signature events that we do every year,
Hmm.
but I don't have an exact number. You know, I never did that. I need to sit down one day and really check that. I don't,
Then you look back and go, okay, no, we've done this too.
yeah. It's been quite a lot. There's some years that I've had more than other years, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes 5, 6 events, sometimes 4, sometimes 7, you know, it just depends. And then
Wow.
yeah, so and then some like couple of times we did New York and then I did a couple in Trinidad. So it just kind of depends on, you know, down we did Fort Lauderdale area also. So it just kind of depends on the time and you know, somebody might call and say, hey, let's do this, you know, whatever. And yeah, we just go for it.
Wow. And what are these signature events that you guys have?
Well, Chutney Soca Brass is one of the main big events that we do. And that we did like here in Orlando, we did in New York, you know, and so that's like the biggest event for me every year. Um, and then we have our Diwali concert that we do
Wow.
annually. Yeah, so and that is always totally free for the community and everything like that. And yeah, so we do,
Wonderful.
yeah, and we normally
When is chutney soca brass usually?
well, it depends on Carnival in Trinidad. So if
Okay.
Carnival is in February, we would do March. If Carnival is in March, we would do April.
You
So
do it
normally
after.
after, yeah, because remember, none of the artists are traveling during that whole Carnival period because it's
Yeah,
also so hectic with events in Trinidad,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And yeah, depending on as soon as the Carnival season is done, um, within a week or two after, we would have brass over here. because so that would normally be their first event out of Trinidad annually.
Given the global event that's taking place, have you had to reinvent if and when and how you're going to do your next event?
Well, from what I did, actually, when all of this started back in March, actually that same weekend, which was March 14, when everything just went shut down completely over here, I had an event planned for that would have been because I had an event in January in West Palm, and then that would have been my second event for the year, which was a big event because it would have been right after the carnival season in Trinidad.
Right.
And um, that's the same weekend everything shut down and whatever. So after that, I kind of took a step back and just kind of, because let's be honest, people are dealing with all kind of situations, be it
Yeah.
mental, economically, just personally, a lot of stuff going on that doesn't even show in the media and all these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I didn't want to seem like insensitive, like, oh, I'm just going to put on this big production, even if it's virtual or whatever. So I gave it some time and, just left it alone. We would, of course, the artists and different promoters, or everybody, we would still talk and, and just hope and pray that things get better and things like that. And I actually did my Diwali concert in October of this year virtually.
Yeah.
But when I say it was parts virtually and parts in person. So the venue that I normally use is just a few minutes from where I live, and which is Gavi's Banquet Hall. And we did the event there. We had all our local artists come in and do their performances live here. And then we had the artists from Trinidad do their part virtually also. So we had like Big Rich, the Punklungs Factory, and Vijay and some other artists and stuff like that. They did their part there. So it was live. So it wasn't pre-recorded or anything like that. It was all live feed. So we was here doing our part that was shown live, and then they would do their part and we would go back and forth. So that's what I did. Yeah. So after COVID hit, that's the only event that I've done.
Yeah.
And just going into 2021, we're going to see how things develop and what happens. And hopefully the borders in Trinidad open soon.
So, I don't think that there will be enough aircraft available when that happens, because everybody's saying, even if I go for a day and I turn around and come back, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because it's such, we are still very lucky, those of us who have our health and are able to just waking up every day and figuring out what to do next is a blessing in itself. But it really has taught us that nothing is permanent.
Yes, nothing.
And just when you think you have it figured out,
nope.
But this has been such a wonderful conversation. I've learned so much in terms of how much of a presence we are, and that's why I love doing these interviews, especially. We are here, the diaspora is here, and we're always off doing our own thing. And then when you get together with people and you talk about, well, yeah, we were doing this, and like we were doing this too, and stories are really encouraging.
Yes,
thank you for being a trooper. Thank you for being encouraging. Thank you for sticking with it. Thank you for giving up the children to just deal with bigger children, because I know how creative people are. I'm not tonguing, I'm just saying I know how creative people are, but it's a wonderful testament to just how resilient we are as a people, no matter where we are in the world. We close our eyes and we figure it out.
Yeah, for real. That is so true. Very true.
So I'd like to say thank you so much from the We News family to yours. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching We News Nellen in New York. I hope you've enjoyed listening to Anjani's story today. I certainly have. It's been a wonderful pleasure. Thank you for watching. Stay safe.